Well now, isn't this a handsome setting? In all my years here in the fortress, I don't think I've ever stepped foot in the Autumnal Guild's hall. Those windows, my oh my, green zircon? Very nice. Anyways, farmers, tanners, butchers, and dyers of the Autumnal Guild. Today I am here less in an entertainment capacity and more of an informational one. Though, that doesn't mean we can't still have some fun, right? I've come today to read you a guide relating to the most valued allies of us dwarves. A warrior caste clad in plate armor and wielding weapons both grand and deadly. Slayers of fiends, defenders of our people. I speak, of course, of the mighty horn beetle. Now, admittedly, here in our fortress we haven't paid the best attention to our dear blue-shelled friends. They're taken care of, for sure, but we can and will do better. Just imagine if we can utilize them to their full potential. Horn beetles marching alongside our warriors in battle, fresh beetle steaks and fried beetle eggs, the finest chitin crafts. Soon, it will all be ours, with the help of this useful guide, a manual detailing everything we'll need to know to accomplish this task. Now, get comfortable and also prepare to take some notes as I present to you Contemplations on the Horn Beetle by Bur Lemuludib. With their gleaming carapaces, impressive beards, and deadly horns.
The horn beetle is a creature that commands respect from all who cross its path. It is a creature that is impeccably dwarvish, still managing to be stout despite its impressive height. For many, these creatures are regarded as ornery or grumpy, yet dwarves raise these impressive creatures all the same, for they know that with the right methods, these beetles can be raised into loving companions. Unfortunately, this knowledge has not yet stretched to our human and elven fellows, who still, for some reason, prefer to pull their carts with animals that would just as soon bolt or bite, or in some cases, deliver a bone-shattering kick to the handler in the face of danger. What idiocy! If history proves anything, it's that the horn beetle is a supreme animal in every way, and can prove a valuable companion to the lone trader making their way across the land. However, due to this strange decision to use hoof animals instead of beetles, the knowledge of rearing beetles is limited once one crosses between dwarven kingdoms into the next territory of other races. Fret not, as my family has been raising these formidable creatures for generations, and I've compiled a helpful guide for choosing and rearing your very first horn beetle. Chapter 1. Choosing your horn beetle. When just starting in rearing horn beetles for the first time, the best option is to choose a youngling from an already existing pair. You will want to ensure that the parents are well cared for and live in clean pens. Mangled beards, dull carapaces, and a generally uninterested attitude are go-to signs of an overall neglect on the owner's part. There are different philosophies on the correct age to purchase a beetle, but I personally will move to take care of the offspring early on in their development. It is not to say that horn beetles are terrible parents. No, females are wonderful parents and will lay on their eggs until they perish. Yet this can be prevented by pulling the eggs out from underneath her, which often is enough to rouse her out of her nest and back into the pasture. If you're selling the eggs, it is best to do so at this stage, and only to reputable farmers who have dealt with the eggs before. If your goal is to rear horn beetles, then gather the eggs and protect them well. The next stage in development is perhaps the best. One must be quick about constructing the pen for the young beetle, for once the egg hatches, the resulting larva is very active. This is a very important part of a beetle's development, so spend plenty of time with the babe. Offering it tender cuts of mushrooms is an excellent way of forging a bond between you and your beetle, as it learns that you are a source of food and protection. My neighbors used to laugh when I carried the larvae around in specialty slings around the home, but I could see the jealousy in their eyes when my beetles would follow me across town. This time is precious, and unfortunately short, as the grub quickly grows fat in preparation for its final stage. Chapter 2. Caring for your adult horn beetle. The next stage is relatively peaceful, as the pupae only wiggles occasionally. I'm not certain why this happens. but I like to believe that the beetle is dreaming. It is a joyous day when the beetle emerges from its shell, but it is a day that you certainly must prepare for. Water, soap, towels, and soft brushes can be very useful when you see the creature begin to emerge. You will find that it emerges from the pupae with a slick substance covering its body. Cleaning supplies can prevent the young beetle from tracking it around your home. It is very important to allow the beetle time to adjust to its new form. If you see your new beetle seemingly restless more often than not, fret not. They're merely adjusting to their new form. You will find that the smaller your beetle is, seemingly the more ravenous it is. Yet it needs to eat, as it is preparing for its first shed. Oh, and what a time it is! I still have the shells from my beetle's first sheds. You may wish to hold on to them as a memento as well. Thankfully, the young mature rather quickly. While they will typically shed throughout their entire life, the horn beetle is considered full-grown at the age of 1 year. Around this time, the sheddings are less frequent and the creature stays a rather consistent size. No matter the size, though, it's important that you continue to interact with your beetle. You may find that when the beetle is small, it will be rather defensive of you, protecting you from neighbors passing by or even your own family members. This is a behavior that you can either encourage or discourage. Certainly, if you intend to use the beetle as a guard animal, this behavior may be beneficial. Yet if you are raising them for pasture, it would only be detrimental to have a beetle grow aggressive with anyone who is not you. I have heard tales of poor, unsuspecting farmhands being chased out of pastures by a particularly territorial beetle. This is merely how they are in the wild, but it is the responsibility of the owner to ensure that their beetle is relatively friendly, at the very least used to familiar faces cropping up in its space. Chapter 3. Continual care for your horned beetle. Now that your beetle is fully grown and relatively well socialized, what to do? Thankfully, beetles are not dull creatures, and you will find that they enjoy their owner's attention as much as a hound might. But in order to ensure your beetle's health, it is important to pay particular attention to a few things. Primarily, its beard. Any visitor to a dwarven town has probably seen the children braiding the coarse beard of their young beetles. And there's no reason you shouldn't do this as well. The beard must be brushed regularly, as the beetle's typical diet of whatever plant it can get its mandibles on can leave the beard matted with spores and leaf matter. I suggest doing this when the beetle is very small, so by the time the beard and the beetle are fully grown, the beetle is used to the sensation. The tangling of their beards aside, you will find that horn beetles are rather tidy animals. If one has any experience with horses or other hooved animals, maintenance is rather similar. You may find occasionally that the beetle may need to be cleaned, be it from the weather or the beetle deciding to reside in the mud for some reason or another. The size of the creature may make it difficult, but a stool can make this easy, and having an extra set of hands can make the process easier and quicker for both you and your beetle. A simple water bath is typically enough to dislodge anything dried onto their carapace, but some owners may go as far as to wash their beetle's beard with nice-smelling oils. I cannot stress the importance of ensuring your beetle has a consistent supply of clean water, unrotten foodstuffs, and a clean pen. While accidents can and will occur to your beetle, these 3 things will help keep disease and parasites at bay. Housing for the adult beetle should be relatively quiet and dark. It needs a safe place that it can retreat to. Any nook set away from the hubbub of life is perfect for this. Keeping the inside damp is beneficial to the beetle. The additional moisture works wonders, especially when they begin to shed. Yet you should be mindful not to keep conditions too moist, as this can cause mold to grow in their food and in their bedding. One of the biggest dangers that even the most vigilant owner may experience are pests attacking the beetle. The most common complaints being mites that will cluster around their joints and legs. This can be especially lethal to the young, where an excess of mites can drain them of their ichor. Adults have a lesser mortality rate, but regardless of age, mites can introduce disease as they suck away at the beetle's fluid. There is no guesswork with the onset of mites. You'll know. If the mites are present, beetles grow weak while grubs will not grow at all and will eventually perish. Thankfully, though, once noticed, the problem can be quickly cared for. What you must first do is burn all of the old bedding from the stalls. Bring it out of doors and set it alight some distance away from your beetle's enclosure. Once this is done, you can treat the barn itself. I will personally work back to front, casting boiling water into any cracks and corners I can find and dust with lime powder afterwards. Of course, you cannot allow the beetles into the barn until you clean the powder away. Leave them outdoors in pasture and treat them there. Next, we treat the beetles. Bear in mind, while it is similar to typical grooming, this process should be more intensive and may cause stress to your beetle. Provide them snacks, tell them comforting words, and most importantly, be patient with them. I can only imagine how uncomfortable having mites is, so they will already be irritable in their weakened state. Using a stiff brush, focus on the joints of the leg where the mites tend to gather. Pouring water on them won't be enough. You'll need a brush, rags, and 2 buckets of water. One warmed, another soapy. As you scrape the mites off of your beetle, dip the brush in the soapy water. The soap kills the bastards. They will need some special love and care after this. Be sure to offer them plenty of fresh pickings. Let them rest in a darkened room until they've recovered their strength, and you will find they perk up pretty quickly. Consider giving your beetles access to a particularly dry patch of soil. They'll roll about it and keep themselves clean, by beetle standards at least. Chapter 4. Turning a profit from your horned beetles. Perhaps now that you have turned to this chapter, you've managed to raise yourself a rather respectable amount of beetles. Or mayhap, you may want to see what the point of this all is. I can promise you, money is to be made here. Every part of the beetle is valuable, and your beetle can provide income year-round. Regardless of the presence of a male, female horned beetles will continually produce eggs. While dwarves are typically the most likely to purchase these soft-shelled bundles, you might also be able to convert your neighbors. Horned beetle eggs have a wonderful texture once prepared. The insides taste similar to dwarven milk, though a bit blander. A fair trade-off considering horned beetle eggs are far easier to obtain than purring maggots. Of course, the eggs can also be hatched into more beetles, which have value of their own. Now, you may be the sort that wishes to decorate their beetle's beard, bright with flowers and bits of thread. While this looks nice, the beard itself can be turned into a source of profit. The plentiful beard fibers are often purchased by artists who turn them into brushes of the finest craftsworkship. Fret not, however, as your beetle's beard is most likely to grow back within the next season. There ultimately may find a time when you grow interested in selling your beetles for meat. I truly recommend getting aid for the first time from someone experienced in the matter. The many-jointed frame of the beetle can make getting the meat difficult. Certainly, we cannot allow a scrap to go to waste. In general, horned beetles provide a good deal of it for those skilled in its collection. It has a flavor not unlike cave lobster with a crisp, springy texture and mild sweetness. I once had a horned beetle roast garnished with finely minced apples that bordered on divine. But the carapace. Yes, by the time beetles are fully grown and ready for processing, the shell is quite big. This is a boon, for you can turn a profit from these as well. You see, dwarves have found a way to specially treat and work the carapace that can turn it into a rather flimsy, yet undeniably lovely suit of beetle-sourced armor. Final notes. Truthfully, rearing horned beetles can be a very rewarding hobby, despite the occasional demands. I hope this book has at the very least enlightened you on these beautiful creatures, if not convinced you to sell your hooved animals and buy a beetle grub of your very own. You will have a trusted companion for all of its natural life,
offering you friendship and protection no matter what life may bring. Well, there we have it. Contemplations on the horned beetle. Hopefully we're all sufficiently prepared to take proper care of our beetles now. Actually, I believe the new pens are nearing completion as we speak. That'll assuredly be a nice change for our friends, eh? Doubtless. Alright then. I thank you for listening to this presentation, but now we have to get back to work. There are some big, blue, beautiful beetles eagerly awaiting shell brushings and mite scrapings, so let's get to it. And let us never again neglect our dearest friends here in Oridashi, the horned beetles.